How many years in prison would every single villain from the new Scooby-Doo movies get for their crimes? After a small break from the Scooby-Doo content, it's finally time to get back to my inner Saul Goodman and put these perps away. Starting with... In the series premiere, Ghastly Ghost Town, Crunch and Rhino shut down the Three Stooges Ghost Town theme park by dressing up as a gunslinger and a Native American, so that they can illegally blast mine and transport uranium across the border. They ran the gang off the road with their discount Batmobile, and they eventually end up trapped down in the mine, leaving our two nuclear ne'er-do-wells with 47 years in prison. In the dynamic Scooby-Doo affair, Mrs. Baker dons a purple cloak to stay anonymous while she runs a counterfeit ring by putting fake money in these clown things. She breaks into the old junkyard, assaults Fred and the crane, before stealing the actual Batmobile. Oh yeah, Batman and Robin are here too. While on the run, she throws a big ball at the gang to try and hit them, which adds even more time, bringing her total up to a solid 10.5 years. In Wednesday is Missing, the housekeeping couple disguises the Vulture, kidnapping Wednesday Addams in order to try and drive the rest of the Addams family out of the neighborhood. They also use some kind of magnets to divert Shaggy and Scooby on their magic carpet, and scare the whole gang with various Addams family props, leaving them with a sentence of 29 years. In the Frickert Fracas, the banker tries to steal Mrs. Frickert's chicken recipe by disguising himself as one of her scarecrows. He sneaks onto the farm that night and nearly escapes before being caught by this giant chicken, and ends up with a sentence of 33.5 years. In Guess Who's Not Coming to Dinner, Captain Moody's nephews kidnap him and keep him tied up at the old mill, in order to get the inheritance from his supposed passing. While trying to enact on their plan, they dress up as ghosts and scare the gang and don knots away, but the only thing they'll inherit is a prison sentence of 39 years. In A Good Medium is Rare, Alberto and his accomplice dress up as these phantoms in order to steal Phyllis Diller's rare jewels, breaking in and keeping her and her butler tied up, before chasing the gang through the halls. Luckily, the police showed up this time, and give them 26 years in prison. Well done! In Sandy Duncan's Jekyll and Hyde, silent movie star Zillia Fairchild dresses up as a variety of monsters and ghouls to try and stop the movie shoot, which would stop the sale of the movie studio. To do so, he tries to injure Sandy Duncan with a streetlight, trapping Shaggy and Scooby in the underground tunnels, and chasing the gang all over the movie sets. He does use a lot of weaponry, but I'm torn on giving him assault with deadly weapon charges. Considering this is a 1970s movie set, these are probably real arrows, so throw it on there. Eventually, he kidnaps Daphne and keeps her tied up, winding up in this mausoleum. In the end, they don't press charges, but this guy's kinda unhinged. 34 years in prison, but like most movie stars, he'll probably just pay his way out. In The Secret of Shark Island, Milo Meekley and the scuba divers are running an illegal gold refinery to smelt down gold doubloons they found in an old shipwreck. While it's technically not illegal to take the coins, whenever you find something like this, good old Uncle Sam will collect, half during tax season. Smelting down the gold was a way to try and evade this. The two sharks chase Sunny, Cher, and the gang around the island, while Milo operates the crane, trying to scoop up the snooping teens, instead netting himself with 29 years in prison. He might have been worried about the wrong bars this entire time. In The Spooky Fog of Juneberry, Gene Haltree heads a cattle theft operation by dressing up like Phoebe Bridgers. A skeleton. Leaving a threatening note for the gang to leave town. When they don't, the skeletons nearly lasso Fred and Velma, knock Scooby off this rock structure, and nearly drown the gang and don knots in the caves, wrangling up a nice 5 life sentences plus another 24 years on top of that. In The Ghost of Bigfoot, Mr. Crabtree runs a stolen cars sales operation, stealing, painting, and selling them at the old sawmill. He drops a list of car license plates containing 45 tags, plus being caught with 10 more. And when added to him chasing the gang around the lodge, plus nearly killing Laurel and Hardy with this boulder, lands him 2 life sentences plus 336 years in prison. In The Ghost of the Red Baron, Mr. Siegfried poisons the farm just as the Red Baron, so he can buy it for extra cheap. In doing so, he gets into a dogfight with this plane, causing it to crash, running the gang off the road. He turns on the plane inside the hangar, which would have diced the gang up, before resorting to plunking Shaggy with a walnut or something, and kidnapping all 3 stooges. While Velma hides from him, he turns on her plane, sending her high into the air with no safety measures. Siegfried really racked up the crimes, leading to 5 life sentences plus another 34 years added on. In the ghostly creep from the deep, the oil pirates, who never get unmasked, but that's okay I guess, run an illegal oil bootlegging operation out in the bayou. To try and preserve their scheme, they try to scare away the gang and the Harlem Globetrotters, with 2 of these goons threatening them with clubs. Redbeard and his mateys are going to spend the next 16 years down in Davy Jones' locker. In the Haunted Horseman of Hagglethorne Hall, the Duke of Strathmore dresses up as the Haunted Horseman to try and take over the castle to sell it for souvenirs, with Farmer Weedley helping him, dressed as the moat monster. The Duke chases Fred, Shaggy, and Scooby with this lance, before sending them down the trap door, while also chasing down Davy Jones unarmed. No, not that one. But he will be spending the next 28 years in prison for his crimes. Mr. Moat Monster is also on the hook for the extortion, plus the menacing of Daphne, Davy, and Velma, totaling 7 years in prison. In the Phantom of the Country Music Hall, Ben, Bing, and Bertha try to stop the Country Music Hall from opening back up, so they won't have to worry about people finding the money they robbed from the bank. They steal Jerry Reed's guitar in a commotion, which I will value over $950, getting them for another grand theft charge, plus trapping Daphne and Fred under the stage and chasing Shaggy down on the theater dollies. They'll be trading the music hall for the mess hall of the local prison for the next 33 years. In the Caped Crusader Caper, Joker and Penguin are back once more, looking to steal a flying suit from the rubber factory. When they lure the engineer into their base, the gang follow, with Batman and Robin joining in. Shaggy gets chased away by this waterspout monster, but that's nothing compared to the animatronic bat, that picks up a stalagmite and chases Daphne, Fred, and Velma through the caves. They also steal the Batcopter to escape, and once back at the factory, Penguin throws his umbrella at Scooby to knock him down, instead popping the parade float that Shaggy was on. These 2 goofballs will be headed to Gotham City Prison, where they'll be for the next 31 years. In the Loch Ness Mess, Morgan, Winslow, and Selby dress up as revolutionary ghosts to try and scare people away from what they thought was valuable treasure, but was really just old movie props, which makes the breaking and entering into Shaggy's uncle's house, chasing the gang and the Globetrotters around, and pyrotechnic attacks of Fred, Shaggy, 2 Globetrotters, and Scooby all the more embarrassing. And for it, they'll go from Loch Ness to Locked Up for the next 35.5 years. In the Season 2 premiere, The Mystery of Haunted Island, the owner, coach, and trainer of the Scorpions sabotaged the Harlem Globetrotters, so the team stood a better chance at winning the next day. In doing so, they trapped the Globetrotters down in the library, and also dropped this weight on Shaggy's head, getting 22 years in prison, and yet another embarrassing loss to the Globetrotters. In The Haunted Showboat, Jack Canna and his partner, Joe here, run a counterfeit operation in Tom Sawyer's cave, using this riverboat to distribute the goods. He locks up his former partner Johnny, as well as most of the gang and Josie and the Pussycats. Along with that, they also knock out Shaggy and Scooby with sleeping gas, turn a water hose on Scooby, and fling Alexander off a fan at a high speed, leading to a sentence of 58 years, or 1,829,088,000 Mississippis in prison. In Mystery in Persia, Abdullah releases an evil djinn, which torments the gang, Jeannie, and her friends. He starts slow, just scaring Shaggy and Babu, but then sends the gang, Corey, and Henry down the chute to an underground hall of doors. Jeannie helps them out, but gets put into this bottle, and I guess Genies still have rights, right? So adding the kidnapping and false imprisonment to his totals feels right. One last false imprisonment of Prince Aben, and Abdullah will be spending the next 33 years in this glass prison. In the Spirit Spooked sports show, Jesse Finster and the principal's twin brother try to stop the fundraiser to save the school from closing, so that they can buy the land for cheap and put in a horse track. In doing so, they chase the gang and special guest Tim Conway around, as he eventually gets thrown out of the trash can he was hiding in. Later, Daphne, Fred, and Velma get trapped down beneath the school, and in the final chase, they find the principal tied up, while Scooby gets snagged with the net. But it's the duo of ghosts that snagged the 25-year sentence. In The Exterminator, Lorne Chumley dresses up as various monsters from his silent horror film days, trying to scare people away from his personal movie set and his soon-to-be foreclosed home. He scares Shaggy and grabs Scooby, before stealing Don Adams' exterminator tanks. He breaks Don's watch by hitting him with a hammer, before grabbing him and locking him in this chest, Also, as this fish monster, he pops the inflatable that Shaggy needed to stay above the water, sending him absolutely flying. While they don't charge him in the end, I'm still giving him 13 years in director's jail, doomed to make the most mid movies ever. In the weird winds of Winona, bank owner PJ Peabody and his henchmen drive the population of Winona out with this wind machine, so that he could purchase the land for cheap. When the gang are on their trail, they chase them off by shooting these pieces of paper at them, catch Scooby with this rope, and lock them all in the library. Also, this one may be contentious, but 2 of them hop in Speed Buggy, who, while being sentient, is still a motorized vehicle. So that's Grand Theft Auto in my book. Once revealed, Peabody makes one last run for it before his capture, and his inevitable 78-year prison sentence. In the Haunted Candy Factory, Sterling Smith impersonates Mr. Franklin to aid his partner in crime, Mr. Crink, in smuggling the gold out of the country. They kidnap Cass Elliot and keep her locked up in the candy factory, and the gang soon meet the same fate. To buy some time to ship more gold out, they pelt Cass, Shaggy, and Scooby with those coconut snowball things, tie up Daphne, Fred, and Velma with the taffy, and lock Cass and Shaggy in one of the machine rooms. But eventually they trip, stumble, and fall into a prison sentence of 44 years. In the series finale, The Haunted Carnival, the strongman dresses up as the ghostly strongman to try and get Dick Van Dyke to sell him the carnival for cheap. As the ghost, he chases the gang around the park, nearly kills Shaggy and Scooby via this balloon death trap, and hits Dick Van Dyke with the mallet from the Strongman Carnival game. When added to the normal assault on Shaggy, and the false imprisonments of Daphne, Shaggy, and Dick Van Dyke, this strongman will have plenty of free time to work out in prison, for the rest of his life, plus another 30 years on top. And with 24 more criminals behind bars, the streets of Coolsville and beyond are much safer now. But that's only the beginning, as next time we're moving on to the Scooby-Doo show. Until then, I want to thank my lovely patrons for their continued support. They'll be on screen now. And if you want to catch the vids a couple weeks early, head on over there through the link in the description, or in the card up top. But of course, don't put yourself out just to help me. Your support on the videos is more than enough, and I'm incredibly thankful for all of you. And, as always, thank you for watching.